If you come across some of the older powder dispensers like this guy right here that use little bushings, don't just blow that off. It's like, that's old archaic technology that I want the new modern stuff. These things are really very good. The way this thing works actually has some things in common if you're familiar with the case activated system from Dillon, or even when you have like this guy here from Hollywood Gun Shop, where you have a metering screw that's opening and closing a cavity, because that is necessarily variable as opposed to something that's fixed. These will actually be, in most instances, more consistent. Now, this guy right here, when you bought a dispenser like this, it would come with a chart. So let's say, for example, I wanted to drop 5 grains of bullseye for my 230 grain 45 ACP that I'm loading. And the chart would tell you if you grab bushing number 7, for example, that's going to give you that amount. Kind of like a lead dipper sort of idea, except it's in a fixed system. And it's going to, when you open the cavity, because the bar moves fore and aft, will get you the same amount by volume every single time, and it kind of wipes it clean. Kind of like when you were a kid and your mom was baking a cake, right? She'd fill up the cup with flour and take a knife and make it level across the top. That's what this thing is doing. So you pick the bushing that you're going to use from the oak block. Now, how cool is that? Who puts brass bushings on an oak block? That in and of itself is worth it right there. So if you don't have the bushing chart, the way I do this is I can kind of eyeball it as I look at these bushings that are here. I can grab one that I think is going to be pretty close by the size of the cavity, because I measured out 5 grains of powder and it's in the pan of a separate scale. So I know by volume what I'm looking at, about the size of the cavity I'm going to need. So I'm just eyeballing it because I don't have a chart. So now I'm going to take a funnel that's going to have at the bottom a diameter that's close to the size of the bushing that I'm using, because I don't want this kind of spilling over the top and all over the sides of the bushing. Because what I'm going to do is I set that on top of the bushing. I take the powder and I drop that in, give that a little tap. Now when I take the funnel off, what I'm looking at is the bushing is overflowing, but not by much, but it is in fact overflowing with powder. So that tells me I need to go up to the next size. Now, I've already gone through this exercise and I know that it took a bushing number 7 to give me 5 grains of bullseye. So I've already got that worked out. Now, how they get inside of here, kind of like a Dillon where you're unscrewing and screwing in a screw, and then you use the case activated system to run a case up into it. You check it on your scale to see how much it's dropping. Now you start playing with the screw back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until you get that charge bar block that's inside the bar adjusted to the amount of volume that's giving you the weight in grains of powder that you need. Now, frankly, I would rather do this and change a bushing, because it's a boatload faster than playing with something that's moving fore and aft, you overshoot it, whatever. So as long as you've got a screwdriver, the bar has a plate in the front that's retained with just this one screw. So I'm going to remove the screw itself, and then the bracket on the front that retains the bushing inside the bar slides out the back. So there's the bushing. So I drop that in, and now when I put this in the back, because I've got this on a Sinclair adjustable powder dispenser stand, I use my 1911 takedown tool to let the bushing clear over the top of my powder stand, because it wasn't designed for this. I'm just adding my own twist so I can adjust it to the height that I want. So as I push that in all the way forward, I just take my little bracket, I put it back on here, and then I just have to screw in the screw, and now that is going to be retained. And as long as I have this snugged up and I don't do anything weird, this isn't going anywhere. And every time I move this bar fore and aft, it's going to give me exactly the same amount. It's just like when your mom was baking a cake, fill up a cup full of flour, take a knife and make sure it's level across the top. It's swiping itself, so as it's open in this position, the cavity fills from the hopper, and when you move it back, it wiped itself clean, and the powder's dropping off the back right here. These are wonderfully consistent powder dispensers. And it's just cool because if it's an older, novel type of design that came with somebody who took the time, a manufacturing company that made all of these and numbered bushing holders out of a block of oak. Stuff you just don't find anymore. Happy trails.